We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks.
They're making you move.
Right.
How many times have you had to move?
I moved like 8 times.
Well, what, did they give you an alternative? I mean, what's your options?
Jail or leave the town.
Across the United States, something has quietly disappeared. In Los Angeles, the rows of tents that once lined Skid Row are thinning out. In San Francisco, the makeshift shelters under the freeways have vanished. And in Washington, D.C., the bridge encampments have been swept clean. At first glance, it looks like progress. Sidewalks are open, parks look safer, and downtowns are slowly recovering. Everything seems to have been cleaned up, but the problem hasn't. President Donald Trump's new executive order, signed in July 2025, launched a nationwide campaign to restore law and order to America's cities. And yet, the reality shows it's nowhere near that simple. In the end, what exactly has disappeared? The homeless, or our conscience and human rights, or is it something even deeper? Throughout this documentary, we'll open up the hidden corners of what's happening on our streets and the truths behind the slogans and headlines that never get mentioned. Don't take your eyes off the screen, because this documentary may change the way you see things, shattering your assumptions and views about homelessness.
Judge everybody on an individual basis, you know? I mean, we all got problems, obviously, or we wouldn't be homeless. But I mean, like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs or any of that, you know? I got my problems, but that's not one of them, you know? A lot of times when people approach you, you know, that's what they think. If you're out here, you have to be a drug addict or drunk or something like that. That's not the case, man. Circumstances put me here.
The new war on the streets. Trump's executive order gives local governments sweeping authority to clear encampments from public spaces, parks, sidewalks, bridges, and to relocate those living there to government-run shelters or treatment centers. Federal funding has been restructured as well. For years, the Housing First model, which offered permanent housing without requiring sobriety or employment, was considered the gold standard of homeless policy. That model is now being dismantled. Under the new approach, housing is conditional. Those seeking help must first undergo treatment or participate in work programs. To his supporters, the change is long overdue. They argue that the old programs were too lenient, that they rewarded addiction and chaos rather than self-reliance. To his critics, it's a dangerous reversal that punishes the most vulnerable and turns poverty into a crime. The debate, order or oppression. The crackdown has divided the nation. For many Americans, especially those living in downtown areas affected by rising encampments, the policy feels like relief. In some neighborhoods, crime has indeed dropped. and public spaces are visibly cleaner. Supporters argue that compassion without order had failed, and that the government finally has the courage to act. But for others, the cost of that order is too high.
And now his federalization of the DC Police and National Guard further our belief that he is going to round up homeless people across the country and force them into government-run detention camps. That will not help anybody. That will make homelessness worse, waste resources, and turn America into a fascist authoritarian police state.
Civil rights groups have filed multiple lawsuits arguing that Trump's directive violates constitutional protections against cruel and unusual punishment. Homeless advocates see a deeper moral failure. They argue the problem isn't law and order. The problem is optics. We're not solving homelessness. We're just hiding it. And on the ground, data shows this is a well-founded concern. According to initial reports, arrests of homeless people have nearly doubled in some major cities since the executive order took effect. Although visible homelessness has clearly decreased, the total number of homeless individuals, including those living in cars or in temporary shelters, has continued to rise. The numbers look better because the cameras aren't pointed at where people are now. They still exist, just not being seen.
The DPPD had my stuff thrown away, and in one of my totes was my son's urn. My son's forever gone, and I only have a piece of him, an urn necklace that I keep dear to my heart, you know, like, that's things I can't get back. It makes it really hard to want to keep going on. All I can say to people is, don't forget what it is to be human. Be kind. We're all just trying to survive.
Punished for being poor? Amber's story unfolds in the heart of Grants Pass, Oregon, a city that has turned survival itself into an offense. Living in what locals call Tent City, she spends her days fighting not only hunger and exhaustion, but also the relentless rules that criminalize her existence. Every 30 days, she's forced to move again. Her trailer's tires are flat, her cart barely rolls, and the few belongings she owns must be dragged through the streets with no destination that truly welcomes her.
Homelessness in Grants Pass. We're seeing new people each week out here. A lot of elderly who are being forced out of their home, foreclosures, etc. A lot of them have been out here for a long time. There are people out here being ticketed to move their tent site when the city hasn't given them an alternative solution to be able to be that's safe. There are no affordable housing or low barrier shelters, and rent keeps going up and up. And so we're seeing more and more folks having to live in the parks or in parking lots with their cars. That's where the city's kind of designated places for them right now.
Food is another daily battle. Although she receives food stamps, they never last the month. Cooking is forbidden, so she depends on instant meals and overpriced microwave food from nearby stores. The cost of survival grows heavier while her resources shrink. In just a year and a half, Amber has received more than 30 citations, each worth $295, for violations as simple as having a tent or keeping her belongings nearby. She can't pay them, and each new fine feels like another reminder that poverty itself is being punished. Stories like Amber's have become common across the country. She's story isn't just about homelessness. It's about people trying to defend their dignity in a system that punishes them simply for existing. How close are you to homelessness? One of the greatest misconceptions about homelessness is that it only happens to those people, the ones who made bad choices, who didn't work hard enough, or who fell into addiction. But that illusion shatters the moment reality decides to turn on anyone. One lost job, one medical bill, one rent increase. That's all it takes for the distance between a home and the sidewalk to disappear. Most people think that homelessness is someone else's problem, the strangers they meet, not their neighbors, relatives, family, or themselves. But the truth is far more fragile. Many of those living on the edge today once had houses, jobs, families, and dreams, just like ours. They paid bills, raised kids, went to work, until something slipped. And once the crash starts, it happens so fast that you can hardly react. Behind every tent, there's a story that could have been ours. The mother who fled domestic violence, the man who lost his job after an injury, the family evicted after rent doubled overnight. Homelessness isn't just about people who've fallen. It's about the growing number who are standing on the edge, praying they won't be next. Empathy begins when we realize the line dividing them, and us is paper thin. And who knows that tomorrow it could vanish entirely. The shelter system under strain. Across the United States, the shelter system stands on the brink of collapse, a fragile safety net stretched far beyond its limits. Policies designed to clean up city streets often operate under the false assumption that there's enough room for everyone who is displaced. But the reality is starkly different. Shelters in many cities have been running near or beyond capacity for years, forcing people to sleep in hallways, share beds in rotating shifts, or stay outside because there is simply no space left inside. Even for those who find a spot, the environment can be difficult to endure. Privacy is non-existent, belongings are often confiscated, and strict curfews create a sense of control rather than compassion. Couples are separated, pets are banned, and individuals struggling with mental health or substance issues are frequently turned away. What was meant to be a place of refuge often becomes a space of regulation, where people are managed, not helped. Meanwhile, new government strategies aim to relocate people from public spaces into so-called structured facilities. Yet these structures rarely address the root causes of homelessness: skyrocketing rent, stagnant wages, and the shortage of affordable housing. They may remove tents from sidewalks, but they do little to remove despair from lives. As one outreach worker in San Francisco put it, "We're cleaning up the streets, not fixing the problem." America's shelter crisis is not just about numbers or policies. It's about a society that treats homelessness as a nuisance to be swept away, rather than a human tragedy to be solved. Until compassion replaces control, the system will remain what it is today: a crowded, fragile stopgap, not a solution. Before and after. 6 months after the federal order took effect, America looks cleaner, but only on the surface. Downtown streets glisten under the sun, park benches are empty, and police patrols have become routine. From a distance, it seems like progress, but when you trace where people went, a darker truth emerges. The homeless have not disappeared. they've simply been pushed out of sight. Under bridges, behind warehouses, along the edges of highways, small, hidden encampments have replaced the once visible tent city. These micro-communities are scattered, making outreach efforts nearly impossible. Aid workers no longer know where to find the people they once served. Many have lost contact entirely. This scattering carries a cost beyond visibility. Hospitals across several states are reporting spikes in mental health crises and preventable deaths. Without stable shelter or access to consistent care, people are falling through the cracks faster than ever. In cities where encampments were cleared, the spaces remain fenced off, sterile and silent. The human stories once visible there have been erased, replaced by emptiness, mistaken for order. The streets may look cleaner, but the crisis hasn't gone anywhere. It has only been buried deeper, beneath bridges, behind walls, and under a nation's growing will to look away. The hidden cost. Homelessness has never been only about shelter. It's about a web of issues: mental illness, addiction, wages, housing costs, and, most of all, inequality. In America, rents have risen more than 25% since 2020, while wages for low-income workers have barely moved. The average cost of a one-bedroom apartment now exceeds $1,500 a month. In cities like San Francisco or New York, it's more than double that. Against that backdrop, Trump's crackdown targets the symptom, not the cause. People think homelessness is a moral failure, said sociologist Eric Waters, but it's mostly math. When rent is 3 times what you earn, no amount of discipline will save you. Even Trump's allies admit that the crackdown alone won't solve the crisis. We can't police our way out of this, said one Republican mayor privately. But politically, it plays well. People want to see results, not nuance. And that's part of the paradox. The optics of progress, clean streets, fewer tents, are easier to sell than the slow, expensive work of systemic change. Yet the long-term cost of ignoring those systems may be even greater. Without affordable housing, mental health care, or living wages, the pipeline to homelessness never closes. Each sweep may temporarily clear a space, but every eviction creates another wound. Politics and perception. Homelessness in America has always reflected more than poverty. It reveals the nation's values, fears, and priorities. Under the current administration, it has shifted from a social issue to a political stage. Policies to clear encampments and relocate people are presented as solutions, but often serve to project control rather than compassion. Public opinion has reinforced this shift. Many voters equate visible homelessness with decay and support measures that remove it from sight, mistaking cleanliness for progress. Yet the real crisis, unaffordable housing, stagnant wages, and weak mental health care, remains untouched. As homelessness becomes a political symbol, people turn into props in a national performance. The question is no longer how to help, but how to hide. Ultimately, what's at stake is not just housing policy, but America's moral identity. Does it seek to protect its image or its people? The streets and the nation. Across America, the sweeps continue, block by block, city by city. Each cleanup brings a press release, a headline, a photo of order restored. Sidewalks are clear, parks reopened, and yet the real cost is invisible. There are no cameras for the woman who died behind a store, or the veteran now sleeping in his car. When encampments disappear, so do people's stories. What's being cleaned isn't just the streets, it's the nation's conscience. Homelessness has always been America's shadow, stretching longer the harder it chases the illusion of order. Beneath polished downtowns, rents rise, healthcare shrinks, and families teeter one paycheck away from collapse. Trump's crackdown hasn't erased the crisis, only hidden it. The illusion of control replaces compassion, and silence stands where empathy should be. The streets may look clean, but the truth still waits in the dark. The moral question: in the end, the argument over Trump's homeless policy isn't really about tents, shelters, or executive orders. It's about identity, what kind of nation America wants to be. A country that values order over empathy, or one that's willing to face its own inequality head-on? Cleaning the streets is easy. Healing the reasons they got dirty in the first place, that's harder. America's crisis of homelessness isn't confined to urban centers or partisan lines. It runs through veterans, families, young people, and the working poor. It reflects an economy that rewards the few and leaves the rest teetering on the edge of survival. Policies like Trump's may reshape what the nation looks like on the surface, but underneath, the same fractures remain. For every empty sidewalk, there's someone who lost their last piece of stability. For every tent removed, there's a story erased from view. The camera pans across a clean city. The viewers exhale. And somewhere out of frame, a man like John starts another night, unseen. A nation at a crossroads. 6 months in, the question remains: is Trump right about the homeless problem? If the goal was to make America look safer, the policy works. If the goal was to make people's lives safer, the evidence is far less clear. Homelessness is not just a test of government. It's a test of empathy, a mirror held up to every citizen who walks by a tent and decides whether to look away. America now faces a choice. Will it continue down a path of enforcement, where order is measured by how invisible the poor become? Or will it dare to confront the deeper truth that a nation cannot be truly great when so many of its people have nowhere to belong? Trump's crackdown has changed the streets. Whether it will change the heart of the country, that remains to be seen. Because cleaning the streets is easy. Healing a nation, that's the hard part.